Welcome to Shelter in Space. I'm Cynthia Shelton, Solar System Ambassador to NASA, and your host. Today we go to an imaginary universe where you don't need a PhD in engineering to design a spaceship. The challenge is to design a space home where you would be happy to live as you explore the solar system and beyond. By now, thanks to COVID-19, we all know what it's like to be kept indoors for weeks at a time with the same people, the same food, the same toys, and no end in sight. So you should be good at this. When the first spaceships were designed, no one had ever tried to leave planet Earth before. They had to imagine what it would be like out in space. Science fiction artists and writers inspired some of their thinking. But humans living in space is no longer science fiction, it is science fact. This year we celebrate 20 years of humans continuously living in space on the International Space Station, also called the ISS. Quarantine conditions are exactly what the astronauts who live in the ISS experience. Some have stayed up there for a really long time, like astronaut Peggy Whitson, who spent 665 days in orbit. Imagine living in a house that is about 1,400 square feet, although nothing is square, with 5 other people, but not the same 5 people. 239 people from 19 different countries have rotated through the ISS over the last 20 years. It's like a science dormitory in space. The ISS is a little smaller than an American football field end to end, but only a small part is where the astronauts actually live. I was wondering, what would happen if I moved the furniture around? If humans are going to live in space, they need an environment that makes them happy and safe and that is sustainable. Back in 2013, Commander Suni Williams gave a tour of the ISS. You can see it's crowded and cluttered with life support systems, supplies, experiments, and the stuff the astronauts bring with them. It's also pretty loud with all the cooling fans and electronics buzzing away. This is okay for a laboratory with different people who come and go every 6 to 8 months, but not if someone were to live there all the time, not if it were someone's house. So how do we start designing? Use your own experiences to make decisions about what you want in your space house and how to arrange it. In my case, I lived on a 30-foot sailboat for 10 years, which I like to think of as my little spaceship. There are surprising similarities between a watership and a spaceship. For one, you have to carry everything you need with you. Both in space and on the water, there are times when you have problems previously unimaginable. So having a variety of tools and raw materials with which to get creative is essential. But you can only carry so much, or your boat will sink, or your spaceship won't be able to get off the ground. The current thinking is that space habitats should be modular. They are built on Earth and then shipped into space where they are assembled. It took 42 different trips to get all of the pieces of the ISS into orbit and attached. Less is more when building your space hab. Think tiny, efficient, and light. So several companies are investigating inflatable modules. They squish down like a backpacker tent and inflate up into a 10 by 13 room you can add on to the foundation. The ISS has taught us that humans can adapt to anything. We can get over zero gravity and no fresh air, drinking our filtered recycled pee, and zipping along at 17,500 miles an hour, circling the Earth every 90 minutes. So here's my first try at designing a space habitat. Fortunately, I don't have to figure out how this thing would fly because for every rocket that launches, there are thousands of individuals who helped produce a single piece of the puzzle. No one person designs, engineers, and builds a spaceship all alone. We need to work together. So here's the grand tour. I found the materials for my model space habitat in the recycling, as you may have guessed. Cardboard tubes, egg cartons, oatmeal packaging, newspaper, white glue. We have the familiar missile shape that is standard so far for launching a big heavy thing out beyond our Earth gravity into space, but it is modular. So the pieces could go up separately and then get assembled in zero gravity. The inflatable idea is interesting, but it feels too much like a tent to me. This design feels more like living in a silo, a tower, or a lighthouse. The bottom section is fuel storage and engines. And you can see the little person comparison for height. This is a water reclamation and storage unit. Water is a major priority since we need it to live. In my make-believe world, we have figured out how to manufacture water from combining hydrogen and oxygen atoms. The multicolored bits are storage behind clear plastic doors so you can see what's in there, but it won't be floating everywhere. On my sailboat, I carried dehydrated foods like vegetable proteins and powdered milk, and I had a little deck garden. The ISS gets regular shipments of supplies from Earth. It's like getting your groceries delivered to your door. It takes as little as 6 hours from takeoff for a cargo ship to reach the ISS. For now, at least, there are no supply stations in space, so self-sufficiency is key. Astroagriculture is one of many experiments conducted at the ISS. There are so many questions still to be answered. Plants growing in microgravity are confused about which way is up. Plus, the dirt and water they need will go everywhere if not contained. That yellow pod there is the restroom. There are some great videos by real astronauts about how to use the restroom and stay tidy in space. In my imaginary spaceship, there is a refreshing, contained steam spritz shower that recycles the moisture after using it to get clean. Up here is the sleeping chamber and more storage for clothes and supplies. I would want my computer library to be full of digitally stored movies, references, and books. I think it would be important to have art on board as well. I have a homey faux rug that doubles as an air filtering system. Ablative means that the shield sheds off a little bit at a time. Same idea as ablative paint for the bottom of sailboats to keep growth from accumulating underwater. The cone detaches somehow without losing it, because we'll need it again. Inside the cone is, ta-da, a solar-powered drone. That's going to go down to the surface. And that's if you don't want to go yourself, but if you do want to go yourself, we have the landing pod that can go down to the surface. Beep! This is the jet part that pops out. While the drone and I are down on the planet's surface, the computer drives the ship, like automated cars being developed now. The ship will wait for me in orbit while I check things out. A little bit like when I left my boat at anchor and rowed to shore to explore. If I found a planet where I would like to stay, I would like my spaceship to be able to safely land on the surface and become my land yacht habitat. A land yacht is another name for a recreational vehicle, or RV. I got a 21-foot RV that also feels like a self-contained spaceship. But if I can't go outside and play, I need more than 21 feet to live in. That's a little bit bigger than my RV. So this rocket living space is 3 RVs put together end to end. That feels about right. Someday there may be families of people flying around in their self-contained habitats, just like the thousands of people who live and roam around in boats and RVs in the real world today. So here on the side is a plug-and-play hookup for visiting friends to attach their space houses. The ISS has 6 ports where visiting spaceships can connect. In my sailboat world, we called that a raft-up. The solutions to all of these space shelter challenges have not yet been discovered. There's plenty of room for you to think about them too. What ideas do you have about how to live in space? When you take the time to make a model or sketch some designs, you develop your ideas and get more ideas, which lead to more ideas, And pretty soon, you could be looking around for a job at NASA. Check out the nasa.gov website to see much, much more information. You can watch the view from the ISS here, or learn more about the ISS research missions here, or find out how to spot the space station in the sky at dusk when the huge solar rays flash with the light of the setting sun. Learn about farming in space, or what microgravity does to the human body, or just check out NASA TV and see what's playing. There's so much to learn and do. What are you waiting for? This has been Shelter in Space with your Solar System Ambassador host, Cynthia Shelton. See you out there.